Noble is the person you would least expect to be talking about feelings and emotions. An uncharacteristic fight with his wife a few years ago revealed a glaring issue. He was clueless when it came to handling his emotions. This West Point grad and former Army Ranger in 82nd Airborne Division is now an EQ practitioner, emotional intelligence practitioner, and teaches emotional intelligence on his highly rated podcast called EQ Gangster, in his EQ Mafia membership and through corporate coaching and consulting. Don't let the big beard and tattoos fool you. Noble is a pure positive energy and passion. He brings 25 years of experience as an entrepreneur and international keynote speaker to help corporate clients, entrepreneurs, leaders, and influencers to get their emotions working for them, not against them. With that, please help me welcome Noble. Over to you, Noble.
Ramesh, can you hear me? Awesome. Awesome.
Yes, Ramesh, I can hear you.
It's good to see you, brother. It's good to see you. And again, everybody, can you agree with me that Ramesh has the best smile ever? He's got this $1 million smile, and it just lights up a room, Ramesh. So thank you. Thank you for the gift of your smile, brother.
Thank you for this.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And Ramesh, thank you for bringing together such amazing group of leaders and speakers. Just I've been taking notes. It's been absolutely amazing. So very, very thankful. There's a verse that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I've been sharpened by all these amazing leaders that you've had communicate and speak. So my background, just like you expressed there, Ramesh, is in emotional intelligence. And it's funny because you've got so many ballers that are been speaking on this panel. I am the only one. I have multiple PhDs, and I don't even know that I even shared this with Ramesh. I have a PhD in toxic positivity, a PhD in emotional neediness, a PhD in emotional codependency, a PhD in people-pleasing addiction. So all of my PhDs are in many, many emotional dysfunctions. So I have 4 decades of being emotionally clueless. And the crazy thing is I've been a leader for 3 of those 4 decades. So I don't know how many of you all have ever had an experience of working with, working alongside, or working for a toxic leader, but that was me for many, many years. I was emotionally clueless. And thankfully, 5 years ago, I yelled at my wife 3 times in 3 weeks, and she said 3 things. Noble, number 1, don't ever do that again. Number 2, you've never done that before, which means number 3, you've got issues. And I'm like, man, babe, you're right. Like, man, let me see what's going on. Went to therapy, went to a counselor, and he said, Noble, I want to introduce you to 2 revolutionary new concepts. And I'm like, and I said, Doc, I'm taking notes, man. What's the skinny? And he said, feelings and emotions. And I said, what on earth is that? I have no idea what you're talking about. I have never heard of feelings and emotions before. I don't have any feelings and emotions. I have no idea what you're talking about. And so that got me on a very intentional emotional fitness program. 2 years into my emotional fitness program, all these areas of my life started to change and improve and transform for the better. My faith, my marriage, my parenting, my finances, my business, everything started to change. And I told my wife, I'm like, babe, I've got to start a podcast just sharing the junk in my trunk and the corresponding lessons learned, because I can't be the only emotionally clueless leader out there. There have to be other nobles out there like me that had no concept of feelings and emotions. And so I started the podcast, EQ Gangster. And then that turned into where a lot of leaders and executives started to reach out to me and said, hey, Noble, do you do any emotional, intelligent leadership coaching? And so that's what kicked off all my coaching business and everything, just to kind of give you all a context and background behind, behind how I kind of got started in that journey. So I want to share some information here with you all that have been really helpful, not only for me, but for a number of the executives that I have been working with. So why does the concept, right, of emotional intelligence and personality, why does that matter? How does that affect us? It's all warm, fuzzy stuff. It really has no effect. Well, let me just share with you, these are some of my real issues that I struggled with before having any emotional intelligence. And I'm not going to read them off, so I'll let you all, or maybe some of them, not all of you all can see the slides. So I'll just read some of these. So emotional needy, emotionally codependent. I was a food addict, a people pleaser addict. I had toxic positivity. I used positivity as a coping mechanism. I was chronically late, chronically forgetful, chronically unorganized, chronic procrastinator, chronic oversleeper. I had depression, suicidal tendencies, ADD, ADHD, self-condemnation, self-hatred, self-sabotage, insecure, indecisive, no self-awareness, no self-management. I was angry, walked around angry a lot. I had no boundaries, personally or professionally. I never stood up for myself. I always caved. I was constantly looking to others for validation and approval. I had a fear of success, fear of money. Praise and hatred were both consuming. I had no self-worth, no self-esteem, and I stuffed and avoided all my emotions. And that's just a warm-up of my dysfunctions. Now I can say 4 years into my emotional fitness program, I am probably about 90 to 95% of the way through healing from most, if not all, of those issues. So I've had tremendous growth, tremendous traction. And as a result, I started a business in 2020, and in 12 months, I was already doing six figures. So whether or not that had an impact, my emotional growth had an impact on me, that's proof by itself that in 12 months to take a business that didn't exist to a business 12 months later to start making six figures from a business that didn't exist a year prior, that is tremendous proof of growth for me in my journey. Now, that's not to say that you can't be successful with your emotional dysfunction. Most people, so here's some ironic information. What's interesting is many people, and I would argue that most people, are successful for emotionally unhealthy reasons. For me, I was successful because of my people-pleasing addiction, and I wanted to get validated and affirmed by those around me. Now I can pursue impact and influence and making a difference in leaders' lives, not from a place of emotional neediness, but out of a place of love and care and peace and being, not pressure and stress and anxiety of performing or approval. Now, some people like me, some people hate me, and now neither one matters to me. I want to be myself and be myself boldly. It's going to resonate with some people. Other people, it's not going to resonate with. So it's being you loudly. And for me, the only way that I discovered true authenticity was as I got healthier emotionally, as my emotional intelligence grew, as my self-awareness grew, my self-management grew, those different aspects, then I started to really discover who I was. So why does understanding this stuff matter? Well, it impacts every single decision we make. It impacts how we listen, connect, processing information, relationship connecting, how we connect and approach relationships. Excuse me. Had to sneeze there. Excuse me. So where our strengths are, weaknesses, time management, where we're productive, how we deal with conflict, how we lead. And another one is how we coach other people. So that's another thing that how it impacts. Now, I don't have time to go into details. For those of y'all that are familiar with the DISC model, the DISC personality model, dominant, influencer, steady, and conscientious. I've been studying people for 25, 30 years now. This is like a personality hack, a slide that helps me explain how each personality views the world differently. Some people can think, oh, we all view, Ramesh views the world the way I do. Of course, we don't view the world the same way. He's from a completely different background than I am. And my way is not better than his way. His way is not better than my way, but it's helpful to understand what those differences are and how we can maximize each other in a relationship, right? What are Ramesh's superpowers? What are my superpowers? How can we use Ramesh's superpowers and my superpowers to maximize whatever project we're working on, to bring both of those skills to bear to better the whole team, the whole project, whatever it is that we're trying to work on. The columns on the left are the strengths. The columns on the right are the weaknesses. Each personality builds trust differently, which is another really important detail. Now, here's the intersection of personality and emotional intelligence. The higher your emotional intelligence, the more you can optimize and maximize your personality, and the more you can minimize and mitigate your weaknesses. The lower your emotional intelligence, your personality strengths can become weaknesses, and your weaknesses will be exacerbated if you have low EQ, which was my case again 4 years ago. So EQ and personality are go together very, very integrated. They're very integrated with each other. That's very important. They're directly related to each other. And so it's important that as you get healthier emotionally, to realize, okay, now let me see how I can show up more effectively to the world and be myself even more boldly. So again, this is more DISC stuff. Some of y'all are very familiar with this, that model. It's very important. Some of the areas of emotional intelligence. Now, understand there's lots of EQ models out there now. This is Daniel Goleman's kind of original model on emotional intelligence. Daniel Goleman's a phenomenal author on EQ for the past 4 decades. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, social management. Typically, we're strong in one or two areas, weaker in another couple areas. It's important. All the leaders that I coach, 98% of them, the first place that I start when I'm coaching them is growing their self-awareness. It's hard to really grow and impact and affect the other areas if you lack self-awareness, that was me again 4 or 5 years ago. I had very, very little self-awareness. That's one of the first spots I start with a leader, is coaching them on how to grow and develop your self-awareness. Love languages is a whole nother concept of leadership that I like to integrate and incorporate. That's a book by Gary Chapman, The 5 Love Languages. Phenomenal book. And again, all this stuff, emotional intelligence, personality, love languages, is not just help professionally, but also personally with your relationships, your children, every single area it helps out with. And then some questions I love asking leaders is, based on our understanding of each different personality, how do we connect with each personality more effectively? How do we deal with conflict with each personality more effectively? How do we coach with each person, with each different personality, et cetera, some other really helpful questions there. And then I have an EQ action chart leader dashboard that I've been using for many, many years, based on the name, the job title, their personality, their strengths, their love languages, their EQ, and then my specific notes based on their personality, strengths, love languages, and EQ on how I need to connect with them and coach them as a leader based on how they're wired. So now I don't have to guess, well, man, I wonder how I can better coach Ramesh. No, I get all this information, and it helps me create a customized coaching program specifically on what Ramesh needs based on who he is and his strengths and stuff. DISC style, again, there's a whole assessment there that I've got, and then a couple other assessments that I use. This is another EQ assessment, EQI 2.0. I'm sure some of y'all are familiar with this, but you can notice and these are actual assessments from leaders that I've coached. These all make a difference, right? How does each of these affect and impact their leadership? These are executives that I'm working with right now. So you can see one has very little emotional expression on the left there. The one on the right has very, very little self-regard and self-awareness, very little independence, very little reality testing, and very little flexibility, right? So our EQ affects how we show up to the world and how we make decisions and how we interact and deal with and handle our relationships. So there's another EQ assessment. All right, that's it. Thank you so much. Here's my contact information. So for the free offering for folks, I've got a free course at eqgangster.com/EQ101. That's the free, for those folks that are just kind of checking out the Rising Leader Summit. For the VIPs that paid for the VIP membership and access, you all can go to eqgangster.com/rising leaders, and that will give you access to a program that I call the EQ Mafia. It's the emotional intelligence fitness community that I run and facilitate on a regular basis, where we get together on a regular basis and we talk and we work on our emotional health and emotional intelligence. Thank you so much, Ramesh. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Wonderful talk on emotional intelligence. I know from my own experience how important it is for leadership journey. As you go up, the expectation goes up, and some people don't learn, and they're still stuck in their own emotional rut that they were before. So this was very, very enlightening. Thank you. Is there any question for Noble from anyone? Okay, there is a question. How did working in armed forces help you as a leader in commercial domain?
That's an excellent question, Satish. So how did working in armed forces help you as a leader? Yeah, excellent question. So one of the cool things about the military is, like, it is a leadership organization, and yes, you have different job descriptions within each part of the military. But every position that you do, at least in my area of leadership that I did, or area of the military I did, was leadership driven. So from the day I graduated West Point, as soon as I started my official job in the military, I was in leadership. So every single position that I had in the military, it was a leadership position, a different leadership position. Next year was another leadership position. Next year was another leadership position. So it's a crash course in leadership. And you get to experience some amazing leadership examples and some not so great leadership examples. And I'm learning my own. So it was really, I could almost argue, a leadership laboratory, so that I got exposed to so much leadership immersion that when I transitioned to corporate America, it really gave me a better understanding and appreciation of the various leadership levels and experiences that you have in corporate America. And the reality is, whether you're a software engineer, you're an IT, you're in the military, you are an executive coach, whatever, people are people. Widgets may differ, but people are people. And at the end of the day, regardless of the widget, it's people is a company's greatest asset. The people are what make the company go. And that's what the military helped me really understand and get immersed in, that leadership laboratory. Great question. Thank you. And thank you, KJ, for the props, sir. I appreciate that.
Wonderful. I have a question for you, Noble. Is among the DISC personalities, is there a specific personality that has harder time dealing with emotional stability compared to others, or changing themselves? Yeah.
Excellent question, Ramesh. Excellent question. So yes, the bottom line is, the answer is yes. And what affects that too is not just, so what affects and impacts emotional agility and leadership agility, it definitely is personality, but also the degree and level of somebody's EQ, right? Higher EQ, the easier and more emotionally agile and leadership agile that leader will be. But of the four personalities, there are two personalities, the influencer, and I'm an influencer, and the conscientious personality. So those two personalities are the most emotional and sensitive of the four personalities. The dominant personality and the steady personality can be unemotional or less emotional of the four personalities. So that's something that when I work with influencers and conscientious personalities, I really have to help them work on their self-management. But then with the dominant personalities and the steady personalities, I have to work on their self-awareness for those two personalities. So excellent question.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, great. Now let's thank you, Noble. Really appreciate, my friend.